Welcome back, everyone. Today we are talking about J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings heading into the 2025 NFL season. So, unfortunately, I made this video last year, and it didn't ultimately matter because I think about 2 months after I made that video, McCarthy got hurt, had surgery, missed the entire season. But to get right into it, though, McCarthy for quarterback, you get Sam Howell in the offseason. Very unproven young guy, but you needed somebody else back there because the other guys in his quarterback room just aren't people you should be confident in putting in there if McCarthy were to go down again. Hopefully not, obviously, but if that were to happen. Obviously, in the past, Vikings have had like Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs, a bit more of a step up than the other guys in this room. Sam Howell, young guy, unproven, with a lot of, I'm not going to say a lot, with upside though. You get him there for quarterback depth. I like the move. Aaron Jones starting running back, and also Jordan Mason. I actually love this move. He was very, very good last year for the 49ers. Did get banged up at some point, though, but if you have him and Aaron Jones healthy, that's a pretty good running back room, not to mention Ty Chandler. This guy can get in there. He can give you some pretty good snaps here and there. So, very, very solid running back room. And then, of course, for wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, one of, if not the best in the entire NFL. Jordan Addison and Jalen Naylor for wide receiver 2 and 3. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison being one of the best wide receiver duos in the entire NFL, in my opinion. Hawkinson back and healthy, a full offseason now healthy, which is very good for him after tearing, I think it was ACL, MCL. He really banged up that knee, but he is back now, full offseason healthy, so you'd love to see it. Fullback C.J. Ham is also still there, of course. And Christian Darrisaw, Donovan Jackson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, and Brian O'Neill for the offensive line. And I've said this in past videos, but just to kind of say it again, you're never going to have one side of the ball or both sides of the ball that are perfect at every single position. But this is really close for the offense for the Vikings. You have just a lot of playmakers at every single position. I mean, Christian Darrisaw is a top 5 tackle in the NFL. Justin Jefferson's a top 5 receiver in the NFL. He's probably top 3. I mean, not probably. He is top 3. He's probably top 2 in a lot of your guys' lists. I mean, this is a really, really good offense. And last year I did a video talking about J.J. McCarthy. And also, for the record, people kept commenting saying I looked like him, which I never heard before until I started making the videos on him. And it was like multiple of those comments flying in. But when I did those videos, one of his big benefits, or I guess pros, as being a prospect was that he'd already kind of played in that pro style offense before, and I thought it was a perfect fit for this Vikings offense. And I would have loved to see him last year, but I'm just as excited this year because I think McCarthy brings a lot of exciting traits to the table. He's able to get the ball into tight windows. I think he's able to extend plays a bit longer than people get him credit for. With a lot to say though, I think him sitting out last year, even though it's an injury, I'm not going to say saved his career because that's just a stretch that you just cannot prove. But I think it may have benefited him. And we'll never know because we'll never know if he would have struggled or succeeded last season. But truly, I do think he would have had his struggles. I think he would have, without a doubt. And yes, he wasn't the best prospect in the world. I know some people thought the Vikings took him too high. Same with saying the Broncos took Bo Nix too high, but that worked out pretty well for the Broncos. So looking at the Vikings now, it's like, okay, McCarthy still has a lot of those tools that you were really excited about as a prospect. Now he had a full season to really sit below Sam Darnold, just learn and take it all in. And that can really benefit quarterbacks. We've seen Patrick Mahomes do that, and look what happened with him. We've seen Jordan Love sit out multiple seasons to learn under Aaron Rodgers. Look what that's happened for him. So sometimes it really is just that time a quarterback needs. I think sometimes today when quarterbacks fail, especially young quarterbacks, it's because they get thrown into something too early. I think Bryce Young is a huge anomaly in the sense that he had a abysmal year 1, benched in year 2, then happens to come back in and is much improved. That doesn't happen all the time. A lot of time with guys, when you're that bad and you lose your shot, that's kind of it. It doesn't always happen that way. So for McCarthy to have this whole time to kind of sit and learn and now get his shot, I think it's honestly a better scenario than what he would have been in last year, being thrown into it immediately. I think also last year, if you had started McCarthy week 1 and he would have struggled, Sam Darnold was just sitting back there, perfectly healthy, able to be thrown in. The Vikings would have been more tempted, I think, throw Darnold in if he were struggling, as if McCarthy were struggling. This year, McCarthy has more time. He's had more time to learn. I think he's on a much longer leash now than he would have been last year because Sam Howell is not someone you're going to want to throw in there if McCarthy happens to struggle. So I think he has a lot more patience with them this year. I'm just really excited about McCarthy for the Vikings. Now, all that to say, I know some people have kind of said, like, well, the Vikings system is so good, it's hard for quarterbacks to fail. And they point to Sam Darnold's season last year. And to be fair, yeah, the Vikings are a really good offense. I think they have great coaching. It is, I'm not going to say difficult to fail in that offense, but I can understand the case that people try and make and say, well, worse quarterback can perform better in that system because of how good it is, which, yeah, to an extent that might be true. But I think J.J. McCarthy can bring a lot more to the table than Sam Darnold can. I think Sam Darnold, he was fine in that offense. He honestly had a great season up until the very end. I think McCarthy can honestly fit that system better because he's able to, I think, elevate guys. And that's saying a lot because you have people like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. But I think McCarthy can get a lot of people involved, and I think he can be a leader. And so I do want to kind of give a refresher here because we are a year removed from this now. But going back to his prospect profile and coming down here to the strengths and weaknesses, we covered this last year. I think it is absolutely still relevant now because we haven't seen them yet. But to highlight a few, I'm not going to read them all. So if you guys like to pause the video or just read for yourself, just go for it. One I would like to say, though, is one of the draft's most efficient quarterbacks operating out of structure, which is saying a lot looking back at that draft class. So that was a very, very good draft class for those quarterbacks. That was Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy. So to say that is, I think, a big deal. I think it's also something that Darnold is not as good at, is operating out of structure. Yeah, he can extend plays and make plays with his legs, but sometimes he just doesn't need to do that, and he kind of creates sacks for himself because he tries to go out of structure. I don't love that part about Darnold's game. I think it honestly hurts him and the team more in the long run. And to be fair, last season was more of an outlier. He was very, very good, very solid throughout, but I still think that was something that often got him in trouble. Makes drive throws between defenders with good decisiveness, toughness to deliver throws when taking a hit, and squeeze out extra yards as a runner. Those are things I absolutely loved about McCarthy as a prospect last year, and I think he still absolutely brings those things to the table. We saw in preseason last year, he was really on the money. I mean, maybe he was having a good game, maybe it was preseason, you can ride off however you want, but he looked very comfortable. He was very accurate. He had a great deep ball for a touchdown. I think he had two actually for touchdowns. But he looked very, very good. I think he did throw an interception, if I remember correctly. Might be wrong with that, but I think he threw an interception. But regardless, I think that's when that time to sit last year also plays into this because, like I said, I think it would have been a struggle last year, throwing McCarthy in there, great Vikings offense or not. I think, honestly, when you look at McCarthy as a prospect and you look at the Vikings offense, I think he brings a lot of things that Darnold brought to the table and more. That's why I'm so happy and excited for the Vikings this year because I think it's like, okay, we saw the Darnold experiment last year. Now we're getting a quarterback who can absolutely be better than Sam Darnold, who now got to sit for a year. He should be fully healthy, should be ready to go by the time the season starts. I think that's this excitement for me is that no disrespect to Darnold, but I think McCarthy can absolutely be a better quarterback than him. And honestly, I think he has a higher floor than Darnold did in this Viking system as well. Won't hesitate to slide and find new launch points when pressure builds. This is another big thing as well. Sam Darnold does not handle the pressure well. That's probably one of the worst parts about his game. JJ is able to kind of use that, find new points in the pocket, step up, make a throw, and that is something I'm definitely going to look for this year for the Vikings, is because if there's any part of Darnold's game that really caught up to him in the Vikings, it was his ability to handle pressure and bounce back from pressure. A lot of times when he was pressured, he would freak out, just things of that nature. I don't want this to become like a Sam Darnold disrespect video because he had a phenomenal season. I'm just saying I think the things that he struggles with are not things that McCarthy struggles with, and that's why I think he can really take the Vikings offense to a new level. I mentioned before, I really think McCarthy can elevate guys more than Sam Darnold can, and it's things like this. I think he plays with a toughness and at a level that Darnold just doesn't usually play at in the NFL, and that's okay. He can find success. He did find a lot of success. I just think McCarthy is the better quarterback with the higher floor, absolutely the higher ceiling, and now he got an entire year to sit and learn. I think everything's kind of pointing in the right direction. Now, with that said, happy schedule release week, first off. And second, McCarthy's going to be tested. There's absolutely no doubt about that. The NFC North is incredibly competitive. You have teams like the Bears, the Lions, the Packers, all that are at a very similar point in their respective rebuilds that they've had, to where they're now they're all in win now mode. There's not a single team in this division that is thinking, okay, we need to rebuild, okay, blow up the roster. Every single team in there is wanting a Super Bowl and believes that they are building the roster, or have already built the roster capable of getting that. So with that said, JJ McCarthy is going to have to face the Bears defense, the Packers defense, and the Lions defense 2 times a year. All those defenses are very respectable in my opinion. But this is the schedule. We're looking at a Monday night primetime game in Chicago to open the season for McCarthy. This is going to show a lot for a young JJ McCarthy to start out in Chicago, primetime football, divisional matchup to kick off the season. It really doesn't get bigger than this. I think it would only be bigger if you're playing in Detroit, because I think they're the best team in that division, but this is going to be a huge matchup. Now, if you guys are new to my channel, when the season gets closer, I do more like in-depth and specific breakdowns where I actually go like week by week and give a win or loss record and all that kind of stuff, which we will still do, of course. For videos like this, I try and keep it more brief because we are so early on in the offseason and a lot of things can change. My opinions on teams can change and their rosters can change. So I'm not going to go game by game. I will go game by game, but this is with like no research. It's just like off top of my head, not sitting down and thinking about this. So just to go through it though, I think the Vikings will win in Chicago. I think they will win against Atlanta. I think they will lose against Cincinnati. I think they will beat Pittsburgh, beat Cleveland, lose to Philadelphia. I think they beat the Chargers, lose to the Lions. I think they can beat Baltimore in Minnesota. I think they can sweep the Bears. Lose to Green Bay at Green Bay. I think they will win in Seattle. I think they will lose against Washington in Minnesota. I think they will probably lose at Dallas, beat the Giants, lose. We'll say they split with Detroit, and they split with Green Bay as well. So we're gonna say sweep the Bears, split with the rest of the division. So I'm not sure how many wins or losses that was. You can calculate that if you want, or comment down below what your record prediction is for the Vikings. I think regardless, it's going to be a tough season. It's going to be very, very competitive because that's just where this team is at right now. And that would be my only hang-up with JJ McCarthy, because otherwise, I've said it 1,000 times in this video and I'll say it again, his time to sit and learn, I think, may have seriously benefited him as a player. So you have that on his side. You have all the traits as a prospect that I think he absolutely still is on his side. You have great coaching. You have a great offensive line. You have a great running game. You have great wide receiver room. It really just comes down to McCarthy, and if he can handle all that in his first year, because this isn't going to be easing into it. This is going to be, you're trying to win a Super Bowl, so are 3 other teams in your division. You're playing twice a year, and you're playing games where you're going to be, at Dallas. You're going to be at Green Bay with a divisional game. You're playing in Minnesota against Philadelphia, the Super Bowl champion. So it's going to be a very tough season for the Vikings. And that's what my main hang-up would be McCarthy's not ready for this type of season. Personally, I think he is, but I can understand that being where a lot of you guys are like, no, I'm out. I don't think it's going to happen in year 1. But I think it will. So as the offseason goes on, I will give a more in-depth video on the Vikings. I'm going to do it for every single team, just like last year. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. Comment down below what you guys think of the Vikings roster, JJ McCarthy, record prediction, all that kind of stuff. Thank you guys for watching. I do really appreciate it. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel if you enjoyed. Leave a like. It helps the channel out a lot. I would appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.